Hi everybody, welcome back to a very festive, very Christmassy watercolor tutorial. I'm going to be doing a snow scene, I'm going to be doing a river, so let's roll the intro, let's see what happens. Okay everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, it's a very Christmassy, very festive watercolor today. I'm going to be doing a snow scene, but this time I'm going to be putting a river through it. Now, there isn't a lot of light in this painting, so I wanted to show you how you can use contrast to good effect to create a nice painting overall. On top of that, I'm going to be doing a value study for you, showing you how you can use and establish the important values in the painting before you go on and do your color version. So hopefully we're going to get both of them done and you're going to understand a lot from one to take on with the other one. So I will catch you all at the other end. Enjoy. I'm going to have another drink. Cheers. Oh, that tastes lovely. Catch you all the other end. Now, I'm actually going to be doing something a little different. I'm showing you my watercolor brushes to begin with. These are all Rosemary & Company. They're all part of the Red Dot series. I'm not going to be using them all tonight, but this is just some of the selection that I'm using. I'm going to choose some of the round brushes, and I'll probably bring the rigger and possibly even that lovely sword liner in later on. First and foremost, I'm doing a value study for you. I'm doing a very short drawing, not that complicated. I don't want to do too much involved in this, just need to get down the different values. Now I'm using three different grades of Payne's Grey. This is Winsor & Newton Payne's Grey. The first is very, very watery, just like weak tea. It's got barely any pigment into it, and I'm doing the wash of the sky because it's a cloudy sky, and I'm bringing that all the way down, and I'm going to just leave it at the top of the horizon line and use the same color in what will be the river or stream. But I've left all that white paper, so the white is my biggest, brightest value. My second value is that of my sky and my river, and now I'm coming in with the next grade of color. So I'm adding a little bit more pigment to my water and coming in a lot heavier now with the dark parts of the bank. These are not my darkest values, but they're getting very close to it. You can add as many steps in value to your value painting as you like. At this stage, my biggest tip would be to actually squint right down. Allow very little light to come in when you look at the reference, whether you be outside or from a photograph. Squint down. And what happens is all the big color masses start to come together. Those that are fairly dark will become one, those that are very light will become one, and those that are in the middle will become one. So you actually start seeing just big shapes, and that's how you interpret your value study. You go from the very lightest, i.e. the white paper, through various stages. You can add as many as you want, as I said just now, but try and keep them as few as possible. Group the color values into as few as you can. So I've basically got 3 or 4. I'm coming in with my very dark trees now. The drawing, please don't judge it. It is very, very scant and pays only a small token glance at the reference photo. I'm trying just to show you how you would look at it and create this very value study. Now I am coming in, I've allowed one layer to dry, and now I'm coming in with the real darks along the riverbank. This, along with the trees that are on the right, will be my darkest values. The colors at the bottom of some of these trees in the center will be darkened, but they are representative of my blacks, my deepest, darkest colors. By using this technique of squinting down, you do, as I say, reduce the amount of different levels of tone that you're going to be using throughout your painting. It also means that you stop looking at all the details and start really only concentrating on the big broad shapes that you can link together in your painting. Okay, in fairness, it's not essential that you do a value study before the commencement of any particular painting. It's just a very good practice to get into the habit of doing, should you have the time or the desire to do so. By using the reference that you're doing, whether you're standing in front of it or indeed whether it's a photograph, is to look at it and squint down and reduce the level of detailed information entering your eyes. It's less confusing, and it also helps, as I said earlier, to make big shapes join together. In general, big shapes like all your lights, all your midtones and all your darks. So what you see here is my tonal representation of the reference to the right hand side. I'm putting in a lot of little branches. It's just merely to complete the picture for you guys, just to show you where it is. But to me, it's telling me where I need to go before I start with the next painting. So here we go. This drawing is a whole lot more detailed. Now, it's still not over detailed because there's no point in drawing every limb, every branch to the tree, but I am making a much more conscious effort to make sure that the drawing I'm doing is as close to the reference photo as I can possibly make it. Indeed, it would be the same if I was standing outside. I'd be looking and putting as much detail in as I can without actually overdoing it. I'm not going to start drawing every branch in, every limb. I just need to have a token that is as close to the reference photo as possible. Now I'm using a 1-inch filbert and clean water to wet all the background down to the horizon and make sure that it's all pre-wet before I start. I'm mixing in some indigo and some magenta to give me a very, very soft violet color. I love the color, and it is representative of that first tone in our tonal study earlier, using the same colors into the water below in that sort of river or stream. Now it's exactly the same process. Instead of the one tone, I am now using a violet, just cleaning off the water on the tape and just tapping off a little bit of that water on the right hand side, because it's just a little bit lighter there and I don't want to lose the white paper at that point. But now I'm mixing up some colors that are maybe considered still monochromatic. So at this point, the painting does resemble the value study in just a little bit, but I am refining the shapes that I'm putting down with the brush marks, and I am looking very carefully at the tonal structure of the whole painting. So it may resemble it, but it is a color version. Now I'm putting in that first set of lovely lights using pretty much plain yellow ochre to go through there, that little bit of dried stubble in the snowfield well and beyond. It will give us our real indication of any light. Now I said this painting is being created because it was a cloudy day. There wasn't a lot of light on the snow itself, so I wanted to show you how you can create this picture using contrast over anything else. You see me here putting a lot of warm values. Now the warm against the cools, that's what I love, using those warm heated accents, not pure oranges but umbers, some siennas, raw sienna, burnt sienna, some translucent yellow oranges in there, all to give you that warm but subdued look of the trees. Now these are the trees that I actually when I first did it, I forgot to put them in. So these are the trees that are warm and going off down the river in the background. I'm putting a very, very strong color now of indigo into my water. It will dry back, it will fade. And I could be considering that this is probably a step too early, maybe putting this deep dark color in, but it really does emphasize the shape of the river. And because there isn't much more to go in on top of it, I can actually get away with it. And I'm also, because the snow is all the way down to the river edge, again, I can get away with putting this quite deep value in quite early on. But it's nice because I can flick around with the brush and create little eddies in the water and just make more of the river as it's sort of trickling down past me. Now the first colors, warm colors going in on these limbs, trying to look at the shape of the trees, looking at how they go up and how they thin as they go up. And trees are, I mean, everyone says, oh, you've got to paint a tree this way, that way. As long as you can get away with it looking like a tree, the brain will pick up on that and it will interpret the information. As long as it looks as though it's right, then invariably it probably is right. We all look at trees, we know them well enough to know if the tree we're painting is pretty much as it should be. The color that I'm putting on the ones that come across towards the right are getting darker. They're getting closer, and therefore they're getting a little bit less light in them. There's a bit more of a canopy maybe, but they're getting stronger pigments. This one's coming in very, very dry brush. I will work on that. It's probably a little bit more dry brush than I'd planned, but it wasn't a point of not being any good. It just needed a bit more work later on. But I've established all these heavy tonal differences, and like the tonal painting before, you can see how the trees now here in the center are predominantly in front of those warm trees in the distance, and indeed the trees on the right are even more in front of the ones that I'm actually painting now. I'm reinforcing some of them are warm, some of them are cool, and this is the yin yang of complementaries, warm and cool colors going in, and the color value, the tonal value, is fairly similar. It's just the color temperature that is actually changing. But remember in the first one I put those dark parts of the trunks in. I'm putting them in right now. On the bottom of those trunks where they're darkest, they are actually attracting a much more serious tonal shift to the darks. And now I'm starting putting in all the many branches, and I'm using the sword liner and the rigger for this job. And you can use either one or both or all. It really doesn't matter. I'm just showing you how I'm using both of them to pretty much do the same job. But think about this. When you paint a tree, branches come toward you and away from you. They're not just to the left or to the right. They're three-dimensional. So try and mimic that if you can, and try not to create absolute patterns when you're doing this. Try to be as random. And that's one of the reasons why I love the sword liner, because you can flick it all over the place and it touches and makes a mark, and you got another branch. And I think that can be so much fun, just to explore the expression of creating branches. But you know, I have jumped quite a few stages within this painting on this part, because watching me paint tons and tons of branches is monotonous at best, and I didn't want to put you all through that. But just to say that while you're doing this, look and think about branches. Look at the reference, see how they work, try and mimic them as best you can, but have fun doing it. You know, I'm adding more branches. If I make a thick one, I turn it into a tree limb. If I don't make one where it should be, I try and disguise it somewhere else. But these are very general marks. There are tens and tens of thousands of tree branches and smaller branches in this reference photo alone. I have not attempted to paint anything like that. I'm just trying to infer what you're seeing is according to the reference photo. There's a simple case that you do not need to paint actual things. You need to merely infer what you want the people to understand and see within the work that you're creating. That's the truth of it. And I think that detail can be heavily overrated. It is nice to see absolute detail, but sometimes you can express the feeling of something, you can infer something without actually painting the nth degree out of it, you know. So just have fun, and as long as you are doing that, then that's what this whole process is about. So while I've been rambling on about everything else, I've forgotten where we were with this painting. What I'm doing now is the very darkest darks, in the same way in the value study with the very dark darks on the riverbank. Now this is indigo and the other was Payne's grey, so they're not too dissimilar, but they are the darkest parts, and I'm adding more darks into the bases of the trees. Now I said to you at the start of this video that it was a very low light day. There wasn't any sun and it was overcast from the snow. But by creating lots of deep, heavy contrast, which we're doing right now, you infer more light. The trees going into the snow giving way to the riverbank. These are the points of greatest contrast, and by that alone you are inferring this massive light. And it's not the darks that's doing it, it's that lovely white paper. You don't any longer see it as white paper. Your brain is telling you that it is snow, yet it is just white paper. So one of the greatest exponents of doing something like this was a gentleman called Edward Seago. Look him up. Look at his snowy Norfolk landscape watercolors. They will blow your mind away. Anyway, I'm going right off topic. I put a little bit of lovely cobalt teal green color in that, right in that dark there. It just lifted it off the black, and I enjoyed that. It didn't do too much, but it just changed the color value and temperature at that point. Now I'm just coming in with all the other bits of reference and just trying to tweak the little bits of reflections that I'm seeing in the water at different points, but they are just subtleties. I'm going back into the tree now. All those tree branches have dried. I'm coming on with the next layer, adding some darker darks in. So I'm bringing that next level into the trees. I've done it at the riverbank. I've done it at the base of the trees in the middle. Now I'm doing it to the trees on the right hand side. Much darker. It's my darkest value in my painting, but it brings all of those trees right up to the foreground and puts them in front of all the other ones. Okay, so now having done all the branches on the right hand side, I'm just coming back to those on the left. Now the color is a little weaker than those on the right, but I'm using a rigger and I'm being very, very definite with the marks that I place. They are very easily seen, as it were. They're not in amongst a load of others, so they do need to look very branch-like. So what I'm doing now is turning my attention to the snow itself. There are lots of pockets of color and information. It's not deep snow, but there's bits of foliage popping through, warm and cool accents, little bits of detail within the edges of the bank. Where I was very general before, I'm trying to put them in with a bit more information. What I'm doing here is adding that little bit of blue violet, a little bit of cobalt and a little bit of magenta together to give a soft shadowy sense to some of the snowy areas, almost as though the sun is out a little bit and giving it a bit of light and shade. It gives it a bit more quality than just an absolute flat surface. So I did that, let that dry, and then I went back in and started working on some warm values, some sienna, burnt sienna, raw sienna, to give me some of these little sticks, these little bits of grasses, like the big swathe of them in the background. There are lots of them all over the place, little old bits of growth from last year popping through the snow. And where those dissect bits of the blue or the blue violet, they really pop and they really work, and it gives you the sense of detail with just a few marks on the paper. And that's all I'm doing. I'm literally drawing warm marks or darker marks here, there, different angles. I'm not putting them all one way. They are going one way then the next. Some are leaning, some are not. And all the time I'm looking at this reference photo now, I'm seeing where I can apply just that little bit more information with an extra tap or two of color. I'm not trying to put in great detail, but the sense of just putting these few extra marks in add to that detail, add to the realism of the scene, and create the 3 dimensions. And you know, it just makes you want to stand there and see it, and hopefully that's what it conveys. I'm looking at putting darker marks in here, some strong darks where I put that in the tree. They may be damp, they just may be dark, I don't know, but they just allow themselves to suggest they're right in the foreground. A little bit more detail, a little bit more care to some of the marks here, suggesting growth, bramble, whatever it might be. It doesn't really make a lot of odds, but it is the finishing touches to the painting. We are sort of closing in for the last part of detail, and the final part will be putting some white gouache body color on some of the edges of the trees on the bank, just to give it that suggestion. I couldn't actually hold that back on the paper, but by putting them in at the end, it does suggest that last bit of realism. You can see that I am adding more fine marks, just looking at it, adding here and there, trying to break up some of the broader areas, but I'm linking areas too. Some of the darks come down, linked to the riverbank edge itself, and you can imagine sort of cracks in the ground where the snow is not there, and it's sort of the very, very fine detailed dark trenches, as it were, for want of a better description, but they are those little bits of realism. Now we're going in for the body color. I've got the white gouache out, and I got a little bit of blue into it, a little bit of cobalt just to take it off the pure white, and I'm just dry brushing it down the edges of the trunk. I decided from the photo which way the snow would have come in, and I'm using the same side of the trees all the way through. One or two taps onto the edge of the riverbank, again where I couldn't hold back the white paper so easily. I'm just using the little bits of body color just to put those together and make them work. And with that, we're pretty much done. I do hope you've enjoyed this, and I really do hope that you'll go onto my Patreon and download the reference and have a go and put it up on that new community group that I've made, Paint with Paul Apps. You'll enjoy it. I hope you will. Catch you all in the next video. Bye bye. Okay, everybody, one snow scene done with a river running through it, and on top of that you got two for the price of one. You got a lovely value study thrown in as well. It wasn't easy to film both of them, but I really rose to the challenge. I had a lot of fun doing it too. I do hope you enjoyed that process, and I do hope that you've learned something from it that you can take on into your next paintings yourselves. And while I'm talking about that, then may I suggest that you nip on over to my Patreon. You don't need to be a patron to do this, but there are the references to this and many other of my videos on YouTube. You're free as a non-patron to download them and use them. On top of that, you've got the color, you've got the tonal, and you've got the line art, all to help you. So they're there. Download them and have a go at that. And furthermore, I have created a Facebook group purely for people around the world who watch my videos, who want to get involved and have a go at them and learn from them and do their own versions based on my video channel. Then I got a place now that you can upload your versions for all of us to see. It's called Painting with Paul Apps. It's a group on Facebook. Search it out, ask to join, you'll be admitted, and start uploading. And every time you do a painting based on one of my videos, that's the place to put it. And I do hope that you'll do that. I do hope that many of you will do that, and how it may grow over the next year or two, or even beyond that. It would be fantastic if it really gets going and lots of people start talking to each other. That would be a blast. That would be fantastic. In the meantime, may I just ask, if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Click on that bell icon. It tells you every time I upload a new video, and it does tell YouTube that I am a channel that is worth looking at, worth promoting, and so many more people who want to learn from me can get to see the content on my channel. That would be awesome. And don't forget, if you've liked it, hey, give it a thumbs up. It's Christmas anyway. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up. And I hope to read some comments from you as well. If you've got any thoughts or ideas of what you'd like me to cover in future videos, please put them there. I'll answer them, read them, and enjoy them. In the meantime, if I haven't already said it in this or any other video, happy Christmas. Enjoy the time with your families. That's a very special time, us all, to be with our families and our loved ones. Enjoy that. Whatever you do, stay safe. Enjoy your painting too. Catch you all in the, I guess, new year. So I should also say Happy New Year to you all. Take care. Thank you for all the support so far. Before I ramble on too much, bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to the painting channel. Today I'm going to be doing a snow scene of a lovely river. Hi everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, I'm going to be doing a very Christmassy watercolor for you today, and it's going to be snowy. No, what am I doing that for? Hi everybody, welcome back to the painting channel. Today and how we can use a value study to help us in our real color study. I think that's what it should have said. Still got a white beard, white hat. Look, Christmas. before we head on into doing our full colour study. So without further ado, let's roll that. Let's roll that. That was all right until that point. Effect in a watercolor and create such a lovely, softly, no, not softly lit, low lit. Have a drink then. Cheers. It's good. All out. So have a go at this one, and that would be fantastic. And what is that? Dear Lord. Did I say Happy Christmas? Yes. Happy Christmas. Enjoy. Happy New Year too. Bye bye.